Hey everybody, Marky here from John 1911, and this is episode 25 of the Armory chat series. It's a couple minutes, about, 12 till 8 on, I guess it's Friday night. I just, another night I'm working out late. I hate working out late, and we have a gym here at the Armory, so here doing that, and figured, well, since the building's quiet, I'd go ahead and knock out another question that I had from some viewers. The main subject of this is going to be ivory grips for your guns, or just ivory grips in general. I'm not up on all the laws or regulations regarding ivory grips, especially elephant ivory. I got these back in the 90s, so when I don't even know what the stuff costs today, if it's even legal to get any more, or if there's any left in existing inventories. But I'll go through it and explain kind of how all this happened and what my opinions are on it. I guess the first thing to start off with is, how the hell did I end up with ivory grips on a carry gun? That started with a gun trade. At the time, I had an M1 Garand D sniper rifle, and it was a pretty cool gun. My intention with it was to shoot in some matches and shoot in some training cycles, maybe do a little like the Mil-Serp competing. Back then they didn't really have the competitions that they do now, but I had gotten it. I got a deal on it, and my goal was to experiment with it and have a good time with it. Well, I took it to a resident M1A, M1 expert, and he went over the gun, and he basically informed me that it was a flaming pile of crap, and it was basically a parts gun. I mean, all those M1 Garands in theory are parts guns because the parts don't match. They're not serialized, but this gun apparently was really cobbled together. It had Loctite holding stuff in that wasn't supposed to have Loctite, and and he was like, instead of putting money in this, he was like, Marky, just go ahead and just sell this thing. Get out of it while you can. So I got on the internet, and there was a guy, and he was selling. It was a dealer, and he was selling Ed Brown 1911s, and I use 1911s at work, and he basically, it was the gun, at the time, this gun, I think it was listed for maybe around $2,100, $2,300. I mean, they're a lot more now, and back then there was a lot of, hell, that's a lot of money now, but I mean, now you see freaking 1911s like $4 grand, $6 grand. I mean, it's just insane. So anyway, didn't pay cash for it, but traded him an M1D sniper rifle as straight up for this, and it came with ivory grips. He had valued the grips. I can't remember if he valued them at $200 or $400. So the gun comes in, and at the time, these were so white that they actually looked like plastic. They looked fake. Ivory, when it's new, it looks like puke. So it looks terrible. So I didn't buy these. I didn't go out and be like, hey, I'm gonna put ivory on my gun, and that wasn't practical. But I had them. They were on the gun. I was like, what the hell? It kind of became a joke, and I left them on the gun, and a lot of my, at the time, coworkers and people in my industry would call them pimp. So I had pimp grips, and it turned out that they kind of worked out. A couple of things that, at least with these, that maybe, I don't know if it's true for all ivory grips, but what in this particular case, at the time in the 1911 world, the Cocobolo, high-end Cocobolo finished checkered wood grips are in style, but they've got such a nice finish on. They're checkered, but they got this finish on them that's so nice that if they even get a little wet, they are so slick that, it's a problem. Well, turns out Ivory grips, they've got this, I assume, clear coat or shellac on it. Now, it's not as grippy as G10s, and if I had my druthers, I would have preferred to have, quote, checkered Ivory grips, but again, you get what you can, and I wasn't even planning on keeping them. It became a big running joke. But I discovered through trial and error, these things are actually pretty tacky, especially if, you know, with like human sweat. I don't know what it is, but they're not slick at all. I've had some fancier, you know, really high-end, like Esmeralda, I don't even know if she's even still around, but like high-end wood grips for 1911s, and the wood's gorgeous, but the finish, if it even gets a little wet, I mean, it's just, I mean, it's slicker than snot. These actually work pretty well. So if you run across a pair of Ivory grips and you want to use them on a carry gun, if they've got this clear coat on them, they actually probably work out pretty well. What I also discovered when, I'm going to go ahead and take these off, I'm talking about this real quick. What I also discovered when, with my handy dandy at the time, we all thought this was really cool. This is a 1911, it's like all 1911 tool parts. I don't even know if they do this anymore. But at the time, what ends up happening is, if you're concerned about what people may think if they catch you with a gun, which back in the old days was always a concern, Ivory grips tended to kind of assuage people's fears that if you're hanging around how do I say this and not lead people down the path, but also keep it correct. If you're hanging around dirt bags and you need to carry a gun, and if they catch you with a gun and you want them to still think that you're part of the dirtbag team, Ivory grips go a long way to helping that image. So that was an unexpected benefit of the Ivory grips. So now I guess the next question is, you know, I would never get Ivory grips because they're going to break and they're too valuable, it's silly. I am by no means an expert on Ivory grips. Here's what I do know. These are elephant ivory. They were legal at the time that I bought them, or they came on the gun. I believe that may have changed. I'm not sure if you're not allowed to bring any more into the country or existing stocks or whatever. So it's elephant ivory, and this gun has been in more fights, has been dropped, has been, I mean, I'm not talking like, oh, you drop your gun on the range with the, you know, the gravel. No. I'm talking concrete jungle, real world stuff here. And these grips have never cracked. Now, let's see, where's the camera? What happens with these is they go from basically plastic white. When I first got them, everybody thought they were just cheap plastic grips. But over time, with exposure to heat, and I suspect maybe ultraviolet rays, if I had spent most of my career working in the sunlight, maybe they'd be darker, but they're pretty dark, doesn't quite show. But they don't darken evenly. What tends to happen is the side that's closer to your body, so again, I'm a right-handed shooter, this side is usually inboard, so this side is darker than the outboard side, and that seems counterintuitive, and I'm not sure why, but that was something that developed, but it was kind of neat. You know, what was interesting about these was that as you used it more and they aged, they kind of took on a character of their own and made them unique to the gun, and I thought that was neat. Again, I didn't go out and buy these. I didn't, you know, seek them out. But I had them, they came on a gun, it was a deal, carried them for about 12 years. Yeah, these were about 12 years. So, you know, because actually this gun, just to give you some reference here, same pair of grips, this gun has been refinished twice. This gun, so to give you an idea, the manufacturer refinished this one because they had to go in for service for something, and they went ahead and refinished it, and there's the finish on it again, but the grips are still here. Here was my plan if I did crack them, because once they started picking up a little bit of character, I figured, well, everybody on the internet says they're going to crack and break, so I just assumed they would shatter or something, a chip would come out of them. I would gather up as many pieces as I could, lay them together flat, and then get epoxy, fill it in, and let it harden up, and then smooth it out, fill it in, and then put it back on the gun, and it would just give it more character. That never happened. I guess, I mean, maybe if somebody's a PH in Africa, they would know this better than me, but I'll tell you what, Ivory is pretty freaking tough. I mean, people on the internet want to act like it's, porcelain china, but I mean, this stuff is no joke. It held up really well. Let's see here. So what else was there? Questions I was getting on how they held up, whatever. Okay, Eddie wants to know, where can I get them today? Honestly, I don't know. I'm not interested in getting any more. I don't really carry 1911s anymore. I mean, as a daily thing, I don't. At the time, I believe, again, these came on from a dealer, but if I recall, these were Nutmeg, Nutmeg, and I don't know if that company, if I'm saying that correctly, if that company is still around, if they, if what they have is, if they still have Ivory or what. What do they cost now? Again, I don't know, but I would imagine if Ivory you can't get it anymore and the stuff is grandfathered in, I mean, I personally, I don't see the value in buying it. G10, like some of the G10 stuff is just incredible. I mean, especially because I really like rough textured, for, grips for, for guns, forking guns. That's a big deal. Also, it is entirely possible that you may run into a situation if you have Ivory grips on your gun, that the politics or the legalities may change, and you could be traveling. I just bumped the camera. You could be traveling and discover that possession of those is no longer legal. Now, I mean, I've had these in some unfriendly states. I've traveled all around the world with these, and in the U.S. And I could easily see in the United States being somewhere and the politics being such that somebody would confiscate my gun or confiscate my grips. So, just something to be aware of. So, Ivory grips are much tougher than you think. Actually, let me go ahead and say this. This is a true blue carbon 1911. This gun looks rough, but trust me, this gun's been through hell. The blue holds up a lot better than most people think. Ivory grips hold up much better than most people think. And, if you're sitting on a pair and you're on the fence about maybe carrying them, I tell you what, I would not worry about breaking them at all. I mean, at all. I mean, it's, special occasion, barbecue gun. Seriously, if you drop them, they're not going to break. I mean, if they've got like some kind of image engraved on them where it's relief, or there's a relief, or or maybe like you could chip something off the face of it. I mean, I can't speak to that, but these things are not. They're not, porcelain. I mean, they're heavy duty. So, if you want to see more pictures of this gun or these kind of grips, or kind of how the story behind some of this. I'll tell you what, I've got some stories. Well, I'll tell you what, here's my bonus story. There was a story recently, I guess, out of Florida, where a police officer pistol whipped the person who was burglarizing a jewelry store. He'd taken a gun out, and he had pistol whipped this burglar and knocked him out. I have pistol whipped 2 people with this gun with these grips. So, there you go. So we'll wait till the statute of limitations, runs out before we get into any more details. So check out our blog page, john1911.com, JOHN1911.com. Just remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. And everybody, have a good night.